I'm happy to officially start the third episode of Let's Talk Apps. We have a short and warm welcome from the founder and CEO of Admiral Media, Andrea Kempe. So let's watch it.
Hi, I'm Andre Kempe, CEO at Admiral Media, and I want to welcome you to our third session of Let's Talk Apps. Today we have Lucas Moscon and Antonio Matamoros Gomez diving into strategies for resource allocation and measurement to achieve iOS profitability. We are honored to have the session moderated by app growth expert Sonia Pobiedinska. So without further ado, let's talk apps.
Yeah, thank you, Andrea, for the introduction. Just a few more official words about the speakers. Lucas has been diving into subscription and gaming apps across the last years, and he certainly mastered such things as user acquisition, app store optimization, ad monetization, and measurement. So he's an expert in that. Feel free to ask any questions about those things, and we will address them at the end of the session. And Antonio, over the last 7 years, he has mastered all the major acquisition channels that you can think of. So Antonio has a really broad overview of how acquisition also influences business, what helps him master their relationships with clients, and also help apps grow not only through the direct marketing, but also in many ways. And Antonio, I'm giving you the stage.
Thank you very much, Sonia. So yes, we are going to be covering a few topics today, and the first one is how a global view on how to allocate your resources, especially on iOS. First of all, this is a question that should be clear for everyone, but sometimes it seems it's not clear. Or like we were talking before the talk started with Sonia, that she was thinking that maybe there will be put more resources in the future in the improvement of your app. And sometimes we need to understand if our app is ready for user acquisition. Are we like indeed offering a significant value to the users? What is our unique selling point, and why those users are using the app? Is the experience within our app intuitive? Are we losing the users in any stages of the onboarding? Or are any parts of our app that are more valuable than others, and we should be focusing? Do we have enough engagement and retention on our app? What is our churn rate, for example? And especially monetization, how are we making sure that we are being profitable in the markets that we want to focus? Are we having like a €10 subscription model for US when our cost per install is close to €7, for example, on how we can define the pricing within our app? It is especially on monetization. Like recently, I was checking the data of one of our clients, like I was doing Discover for my colleague Pedro, and suddenly I started seeing the revenue of this app that from July to August of last year, it went from $15,000 in new customers to $30,000, and I was like, okay, I don't see any changes within your acquisition, that you're not running more campaigns. What happened here? Will you like running offline marketing activities? They just double the price of the subscription, and it did not affect in any way negatively, but rather to duplicate the revenue. So this is something that you need to be also analyzing and keep ongoing tests on this type of things. Data collection analysis is there many times that I see like some of the apps I work with, they don't have any data about their users, that they're not using any onboarding like questions in order to understand who is actually subscribing to your product, who is generating the revenue within your product. And this amount of data is super valuable in order to define your campaigns or like your creative strategy. And it's very important to have all this information. So on a very short and very simplistic way to generate revenue within your app, we can have three very simple models, which will be install, purchase, and subscription, with installs based on the traffic, purchases very common for gaming or shopping apps, and subscriptions we were one of the most affected by iOS measurement changes with SKAN 3.0. Once we know how we want to optimize, or which is the main driver of revenue for our app, we can have different marketing objectives that none of them is excluding each other, and we are gonna find value in most of them depending on the stage of our app or what is our objective of the campaign. For example, if maybe we don't have an app that's ready for having a lot of effort on user acquisition, but we need to still drive some traffic in order to understand where our app is failing and where we are losing our users. Usually, awareness and consideration are pushed by the different ad networks a lot. Like they see a lot of potential on those, and they back with studies that they have seen a lot of incremental uplift when running awareness. I have not seen them that much, so I would love to hear from other people examples. In my experience, I always focus mostly on conversion campaigns.
Unless you own some meta shares and you want to give the money to Mark.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like this is a very easy way, like awareness, to say, okay, you generate like 500,000 video views, but where's this public coming? It's like TV advertisement, no? Pretty similar. So once we know what is our objective for the campaign, or well, first of all, usually I like to keep a ratio of 80-20% for your business as usual campaigns and the test that you want to be running up, focusing always on what's working for you, what has worked in the past, but never stop testing different channels, creative strategies, or different campaign setups, because there's always room for improvement in your strategy or in your approach, and you need to keep testing ongoing. But we need to make sure we have the different resources to make those tests valuable, or if the insights that we're gonna get from them are indeed correct and applicable in the future. So we're going to be thinking about how much can we spend, where we're going to spend it in terms of channels, creatives, and the duration of those tests. So in order to have a clear view of this allocation of the resources, we would like to have always a testing framework in place where we make sure that we keep track of what are we testing, what are we analyzing, and we have a clear setup. In this case, for example, we will be testing different creatives under the same optimization event, and we are using the same targeting options as our business as usual, because we want to see if the new 5 creatives that we produce are gonna deliver similar results or not. In order to create those budgets, we try to see what's the average cost of this event that we want to achieve with our campaigns. That surprise, usually when you're testing new creatives, they're not going to be anywhere close to this KPI performance, but it's good to have at least a view of how much budget it will be needed. And then you need to set up a clear strategy for all your tests in order to run them properly. what's very important for differentiate yourself from others is gonna be always your creative production, and what's the only thing that can help you to differentiate from other companies nowadays, because everybody knows how to set up a campaign properly, everybody knows how to run Google search and Google ads and Facebook ads and or any DSP. So what's gonna make the difference at the end is having your creative production ongoing, and try to iterate on those creatives that have proven to work good on you, or try new approaches. You need to do your brainstorming, concept implementation, and then analyze the results of those and iterate on those creatives. And finally, on the allocation of the resources, to have a good reporting tool in place. Doesn't need to be a Tableau or any MMP or whatever. You can just build it yourself, but try to you need to make clear what are your objectives per market, channel, operative system, and have a real-time reporting of those in order to act quickly accordingly to the changes that you see on your campaigns, the tests that you're running. Also, it's very important to have different objectives based on the markets that you're going to be running. It's not the same a user in Spain, a user in Italy or Germany, and how this user are gonna generate revenue or the lifetime value of those on average, as well as per channel. You're gonna see big difference always.
Yeah, thank you,
The-
Antonio. Quick question here. You mentioned about the difference in the different distribution of the budget across the different channels. So when this all privacy thing with iOS started, we all thought that, okay, maybe advertisers will spend more on Apple search ads. And also Snapchat was one of the first to come up with a solution. And also many people thought that, okay, Snapchat will be big right now or for most of the apps. How do you think a lot of the apps, how did the situation with the budget allocation across channels change? And what are the channels where people still, or maybe people started, spend much more right now? What can you say here?
So I don't see big changes in the way that the budgets were allocated in terms of after the first turbulence period, but most of these apps or even the ones that are being created recently, we have some benchmarks of which are the main channels that are more likely to perform for each app vertical or different approach. So until you just need to reach your privacy thresholds, see the performance of those, and run your test for enough time to see, okay, this channel works for me or not. And when it comes, for example, what you mentioned for Snapchat, that it was one of the first one that has the enhanced conversions, now AEM with Facebook. These solutions, I really don't trust them that much because we have a common method of measuring iOS performance across all the channels, which is SKAd. And I will prefer to not go with the model conversions by any channel, because if it's modeled by this channel, it's always going to favor this channel in order to make you invest more in this channel, no? So it is a good solution if you are constrained in terms of budget, if you are not going to be able to reach your minimum privacy thresholds in order to be able to optimize those campaigns. But I always will compare the performance based on SKAd data, not in their model. As we do with Android now, that we check on the MMP or what we see on Google Play Store, or yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the advice. A good one. Good one.
Thank you. So yeah, when it comes to iOS revenue measurement explain, I will go a little bit with the limitations cut or like the biggest changes that we saw, and I will pass them back to Lucas after for deep diving on revenue, where he's the expert. So the main limitations, as we all know, it's the changes of aggregated data, not device ID users, which made retargeting really difficult in iOS. The post-back timing, like not having real-time data anymore, and post-install activity. No information after the first 48 hours. Now we're starting to see some sunlight through the window with SKAN 4.0, but I don't think we will come back to pre-ATT times when it comes to the post-install activity with these new changes either, and deferred deep linking not being supported. So from SKAN 4.0, we are switching from private thresholds to crowd anonymity, and we are going to have 4 source identifiers instead of 2, as we had for the last couple of years. We will see how those source identifiers are being applicable by the different channels and with the information we're getting from them, and multiple postbacks, which is like the most well, source identifiers and multiple postback, I will see put it in the same level of importance. But let's see, well, with the postbacks 2 and 3, we're getting information of our user journey from day 3 to 7 and from day 8 to 35. But we can also, depending on our objective, we can apply the log windows and stop receiving data, but start receiving the data earlier. There will be a web-to-app support for Safari browsers on first, and that the conversion values can decrease for the first time. So what have been some of the ground decisions we've been making since SKAN was released? Me and my colleagues, the companies I've been working with, I've seen some of these things happening, and we should avoid them. So reduce or pause your iOS user acquisition action, move the budget towards Apple Search Ads or Android. When if you were having more like the main driver of your revenue or profitability was coming from iOS user, you should not switch to that. Relying too much on lookalike audiences. Now the lookalike audiences are built with a much smaller audience size. And I can go a little bit more in detail on the next couple of ground decisions, which are like keeping many budgets with a little budget, many campaigns, not many budgets, many campaigns with a little budget, and not reaching those privacy thresholds. For example, we have an example of the performance of 4 different campaigns on Facebook during the week from March 4 to March 10 on 2024. And we can see, like, for example, if we compare the second and third campaign, we see like the first campaign, it was generating barely 500, second campaign is generating 500 installs, and the third 300. And does this mean that the third campaign, because when we see the conversion bit value 6, we see only 6 conversions in comparison with the 172 conversions from the second campaign? Does this mean that the third campaign is not driving any conversions in comparison with the second? It's most likely like the amount of install is too low, and your conversion value null rate is on a very high percentage, and you are not receiving enough data of this third campaign. So if you don't have the possibility of increasing the budgets on those that you are not reaching, you need to merge those campaigns or those audiences. And then lastly, very related to this one, if your conversion value null rates are not close to 0, you're gonna be losing a lot of your information. You're not passing your postbacks from your campaign, and you're not gonna be able to identify those campaigns are performing well or not. We have here another example from Google Ads during 4 different weeks, and we can see the week from the 26th of February until March 3. We are receiving like around 108, 126 events on conversion bid number 6. And the next week, we go down to 43, or the previous week, the first one is where it's more visible. We have 177 installs and only 5 events. Does this mean that this campaign generated only 5 conversions on the week of 12th of February, that it generated 25 times less conversions than the next week? No, the main reason is that you are not reaching those privacy thresholds, and your conversion value null rates are very high, and you are not sending back the information. Okay.
Cool. I'll take from here. Nice to hear, Antonio. So, hello to everyone. So before moving on, okay, it's clear that you understand where you are going to fetch the data from, okay? My recommendation, okay, here you will see 2 trees, okay? One is going to be based on different revenue streams. The first is going to be for subs and subscription-based apps and in-app purchases like gaming or whatever. And the other one would be for off-store revenue, like for example, any delivery app or streaming app or whatever. So most people start to go crazy at the beginning on where they need to fetch the data coming from SKAdNetwork, or how they can correlate the data to the performance marketing efforts. So my recommendation here is always trying to start with your MMP, which in most cases it's going to be wrong. Okay, so I've never seen an MMP where everything it's working. It's not the case to see. Then my recommendation, for example, for subs and in-apps, is to go for example, to any third-party SDK or Firebase, for example, where you can see trial converted, like for example, RevenueCat, Adapty, or any other of these tools. And the third step would be to start using StoreKey 2 or any API from the store consoles, okay, from App Store Connect or Google Pay Console. Then in that case, if you don't have access or you are not able to manage that API, then you can request access through the backend. And if you're not able to do that, sorry, but you will be fucked up in the short term. So then you can go with Data AI or Sensor Tower as a proxy. So this is just for you to know the references or where you have the chance to look for data regarding SKAdNetwork. So to continue with, one of the things that I want you to consider about SKAdNetwork, okay, just a comment here. This is not like in the documentations page from Apple. This is not told by any MMP or a network. This is just sharing my experience with you, okay, and the things that I learned over the years. So the first one is going to be the trade-off between free trial and non-free trial for the first postback. So what I mean by this is, for example, a lot of subscription apps were saying, hey, what if I remove the trial and I go to optimize directly for subscriptions? So I see a lot of cases that were trying to do that because they wanted to get rid of the trial. But what happened after that is that they were struggling with UA because they didn't get enough volume to optimize for. So you need to consider that before you want to make that move. Okay, so this is really important for optimization because you're going to reduce the amount of signal that you're going to send back to that network. The second one is going to be the backend event limitations. Okay, Antonio mentioned it before with all the changes that are going to come into SKAdNetwork 4.0. Okay, one of these changes is going to be that you can add multiple events to the second and third conversion window. So this is tricky, okay, because for example, you have a subscription app, okay, and in the first box that you plan to put, for example, I don't know, free trial started. And in the second window, you would like to put trial converted. It's not going to be triggered, this event, unless you make some trick workarounds and the user opens the app. Okay, you can fire server-to-server events within SKAdNetwork. That's not allowed, and you're not going to update the conversion value. So you need to consider this, okay? If you know that, for example, your retention day for day 4, it's close to 0, okay? You don't need to care that much about planning the second and third conversion and second and third postbacks. Then we can go with first postbacks. It's going to remain the most important for UA. This is no bullshit, okay? Don't worry about the second and the third one, okay? This is the truth. You're not going to think or optimize thinking the other postbacks, so try to keep your attention on the first one. Then I see the second and the third postback more for like product analytics to try to understand the cohorts that you're acquiring and not that much, okay? This is not going to change your day-to-day decisions because you're not going to be optimizing your UA efforts based on data that you're going to receive 40 days after. No one is doing that unless for the people that I know. So you can make this just like to have some decent reports on the back where you can support your actions in the long term, but you can polish this by adding some revenue ranges to these postbacks, which is the nice things to do. And this is like a recommendation from myself. So another one is to go easy with course values. Okay, don't try to complicate your life with this. Try to keep it simple. This is quite new in the industry. Most of you won't know how to read the data. Most of you don't know how to work with proposed packs. Try to keep it simple, okay? And one tip that I can give you now is for the low course values in the second and third postback, just put the session start event. Try to guarantee the send of that postback. I want to have something in my hand. So the first thing that you can do is try to map the session start to the low volume, okay? That way you at least can see if you have at least some retention coming from these UA efforts. Okay, then you can map everything you want in the medium and high, but try to guarantee that you're going to receive something. Then this is something that a lot of people ask me, hey, I will be able to run ROI campaigns or ROAS campaigns within Meta or Google, whatever you want. I mean, unless you want to give your money away, you won't. It's going to be impossible. Okay, at the beginning, most of the apps are not capable of that right now. Subscription apps are struggling to make a profit in day 0 for most annual subscriptions. So my recommendation would be to keep working with in-app events, try to send the event that's the most relevant, but also has a lot of volume that the ad network can optimize with. Then find the balance between revenue ranges and intervals. Okay, if you add a lot of revenue ranges, it's going to be harder for you to read the data. But if you make it broader, the ranges, it's going to be easier because you're going to receive less data from Apple. So try to find the balance between these revenue ranges. My take, okay, is try to keep it super simple. Don't try to complicate it because it's going to be hard once you start to deal with the data. So keep it simple. Then prioritization between revenue events, subscription and apps. Okay, so try to go with everything you can here. Don't try to overlap these events. For example, if you have like in the second postback in the medium, don't try to put subscriptions and in-app because both have to be triggered for you to get that postback back. So try to keep it simple. Isolate the different events in different cases. So that's a good way to start. Then a lot of I receive a ton of messages daily on my LinkedIn on how do you see the data, Lucas? So I pull out these dashboards for you that I really like to see every single day for my campaigns or for the apps that I work with. So here you can see the proceeds coming from the store. Okay. Then I like to see the gross margin if I'm making or not a profit. This is more like a blended approach. It's not specifically for scan, but it gives you a it allows you to see the full picture here. This one that I have, another one that I really like to work with, it's related to the SKAdNetwork because it only works with your new revenue from the stores. This way you remove all the renewals. Okay, so in this way, for example, if you have like an app that has been around for like 4 to 5 years, you will be having a lot of renewals coming every single day. Okay, but you will like to know, hey, I'm spending money today. Is this money being profitable nowadays, or it's being profitable because I have renewals coming from previous years? So I like to have this to see if I'm being profitable on day 0 or if I'm going to make money from the investment that I'm doing nowadays. The third one is going to be to break down all the install sources against the spend. Okay, these are the 4 installed sources that I look at. Of course, the one that I trust the most, it's going to be SKAdNetwork in terms of performance, but then you can compare the against the MMP, CPPs, and what that network attributed itself. Then, there you go. So another thing that I'm doing lately, it's trying, for example, for Meta, that like I will guess that most of you run Meta ads. I just create different CPPs, which stands for custom product pages, okay, that you can add this at that level. And then you can filter this in your App Store console to see the revenue that you're generating there. So for example, you have a specific campaign, a specific campaign for the US, okay? And maybe you would like to see, hey, how much proceeds I'm generating there, you know? And then you can use this URL. It's like a UTM from Google Analytics in the old decades, you know, and then you can see everything there. So it's nice to have these dashboards where you can compare only the CPP proceeds against everything and measure incrementality between those data points. And of course, you can add the spend if you want to. So the transition, what to expect about what's going to happen in the near future. You will see everything that's not going to make much sense at the beginning. Okay, you will see like some turbulence in the transition period. Some of networks are going to tell you that, hey, this is only going to last 1 week, this is going to last 2 weeks, so be patient. But my guess is that it's going to last at least 1 month for app developers to see if they, that it makes sense in some way. So be patient here. Okay, MMPs and ad networks won't be capable of answer everything in the short term, okay, because they're going to receive a lot of requests or tickets. Also, once you switch to the new mapping, okay, you will need to expect that you will need to make more changes to it. Okay, it's not that you're going to get it right in the first take, and it's okay. That's average. Okay, so make sure that you have more time to test these new schemas. So be patient with yourself, with align expectations with your company, and make sure that at least you don't fuck it with the first post one. Then you can play with it whatever you want. The course value refers to more changes than defines. That's just what I said. And the adaptation step is going to include new data points in the decision-making process. So set this, one of the things that we can do, okay, is to challenge the status quo when we face these new updates in the industry. So how it used to be, okay, the old good times, it was cheap, okay, I think we all agree on this one. Back in 2012, 2015, when a few advertisers were out there bidding for users, it was quite cheaper. The measurement was going through SDKs, mainly the MMPs, where the user level data was available, like the ADFA. Less data sources were needed, and you have like a single source of truth with a deterministic match. Being profitable wasn't the main goal, downloads was an KPI back in the old good times. It's to position your app in the stores. So the new way of measurement that I don't see anyone talking about this stuff. It's not about SDKs anymore, okay? And everything is going to be having in a server-to-server environment, okay? What does this mean? Okay, you don't need to install an SDK if you want to receive the postbacks. Okay, if you want to deal with SKAdNetwork, you don't need that, okay? So one of the reasons why I think this is really good, okay, it's because it gives the power back to app developers, okay? And you can remove the middlemen here. So since iOS 15, okay, app developers can request a copy of the postback and work with it in the way they want. They don't need to pay anything to run any other ad network. So right now, today, we're going to talk only about iOS. If you want to talk about Android, we can have this discussion late in the future. But for iOS, right now, it's server to server, okay? So you need to get this into your head that you don't need any MFPs to tell you, hey, this is happening. Apple is deciding what's going to happen. So set that here, you have like a quick chart. This is coming from Apple's documentation, so you can look at it in their web. But basically here is what I'm telling you, okay? Apple is going to ensure the crowd anonymity levels, and then they are going to send the post back to the ad network if they win the attribution, and also to the app developer, okay? You as an app developer are not going to see if, for example, TikTok didn't win the match, okay? TikTok will receive a post back with a false in the did win parameter. So you will need to get this into your head, and after, in some minutes, you will realize why I'm telling you all this stuff. So the new way has some cons, okay? It's hard to understand and master at the beginning. People are not used to it. Marketing guys or growth guys, most of them are not that technical, or they don't care. I don't know. So the transition is really low, and after plus 3 years, so no one is using it. And there's few documentation out there, okay? MMPs, I don't want to say have the monopoly of content right now in the industry, but they own most of it. So if you look at SKAdNetwork, even Apple's documentation, it's not going to appear first in the Google search. And also it requires a lot of knowledgeable team or people to build this stack from scratch. So the benefits, you don't need any intermediary here between you and the ad network, so you can save some money. It's going to be a deterministic attribution because it's going to work with an aggregated approach coming from SKAdNetwork. It's going to be easy to validate ad network fraud because you can validate the transactions ID that they are sending to your servers, and you're going to be the owner of the data. That's what everyone is looking nowadays. So you can manage and analyze and transform your data in any way you want. And this is going to be happening with Android soon. We were talking this before the session with Sonia. Private Sandbox is the same as SKAdNetwork. They will have more APIs, whatever, but the plan is to give the power back to app developers so they can attribute everything by themselves. So what to do
Lucas?
instead? Yeah, I'm out of time.
Yeah, there's a really, really great question here coming from the audience, and I think that you will address it as well right now. So the question sounds this way. You mentioned using third-party tools like Adapty instead of a faulty MMP. We have a misreporting apps player, but of course, Adapty doesn't show us conversion events with specifically to our meta campaigns. Any ideas on attribution?
Okay.
The one, yeah.
Let me read it again. So you mentioned using third-party tools like Adapty instead of, well, I mean, you can use what I was talking about in the decision tree, okay, is in case you need to fetch data, okay? This is not for attribution. So if you want to attribute everything for your performance marketing efforts, you will need an MMP or work directly with the SKAdNetwork API, okay? You will need to create your own endpoint and do everything you need to do there. But this is just for revenue fetching, okay? So in case you don't have everything in place in your MMP, and there are some, that's the case for everyone, some discrepancies that you will see. My take, okay, is to look for the revenue in these third-party tools like Adapty, for example, that this Peleg is using. I guess the question was for Peleg, right? From Peleg, right? Cool. Awesome. So what to do instead? I want to give you some solutions, okay? I don't want to end this webinar without just talking them fly. So these are things that I'm doing nowadays, okay? And I recommend you to try to do, okay? This is not something that I hear from someone or I read a blog or whatever. These are things that I'm doing and it's working for me personally. So I highly recommend you to try this, okay? So the thing is that for how much time do I have, Sonia? Sorry for that.
We
5
still
minutes?
have
Okay.
we can do 5 minutes, yes.
Okay, yeah. So I will try to go fast here. So the fact is that you can build your own stack, okay? You can save costs, you can do a lot of things here. So the logic works like this, okay? You will need to create your own URL, which is like an endpoint, okay? You will tell this to your developer. You don't need to care about this. It's super easy to integrate. The documentation is too easy to read, to be honest. So that's also an issue because Apple, I don't know how they are like a 3 trillion company and they don't spend money on this documentation that they share with the community. So the doc sucks, to be honest with you. But you can chat me if you need it. But basically, you will create your own endpoint. You will process your data, okay? You are going to receive some JSONs, which is like some small files with some parameters, and you will have the conversion value there, which is almost the same that the MMP is doing nowadays. And then you can start building your BI system, okay? This way, okay, you're going to have these benefits, okay? You're going to increase your gross margin per download, okay, that most developers are struggling with. You're going to reduce your operational cost. You're not going to be dependent on one vendor, for example, the MMPs, if you want to. You're going to eliminate the chance of data manipulation, this is really important. I can disclose the names of them, but I've seen some cases where SKAdNetworks were over-reporting like 300% against SKAdNetwork. And the guys from this network were telling me, hey, Lucas, after 3 years, you're the first guy that come to me with some postbacks and are challenging us to train again the algo. And, you know, I have some legal cases going on with these guys, and they are trying to change how they are optimizing in that accounts that I'm managing right now. But it's super shady. Okay, so this way, you know, you're going to guarantee that you're going to see or make sense of data. And also, you know, you're going to decrease the discrepancies for your postbacks because you're going to see everything and you need to make sure that the integration with this partner is okay. So there are no intermediaries, so it's going to be working. So there are two alternatives to this. One of them, it's going to be your in-house solution, which again, it mentions all the things that it says all the things that I just mentioned. But also, as a side project, okay, I'm building this for the public, for everyone. This is not a sales speech or whatever. The plan is to make it for free at the beginning until servers collapse. But you know, it's like a project that's going to allow you to work directly with Apple and try to reduce your costs, and maybe you can save that money to work with, I don't know, more networks, hire new people, expand your team, keep the money in your pocket, whatever you want to do, you know. And also it's going to be more transparent and flexible in the terms of the contracts. Really, you can do whatever you want here. So this is something that I'm doing lately with all the apps that I'm working with. Basically because, for example, if you have like a multi-million-dollar portfolio, okay, and you have like, I don't know, 1 million SKAdNetwork conversions, you will be saving like, I don't know, 40K a year, 50K a year, which is a ton of money. And maybe you can allocate that budget to, you know, whatever Antonio said before, with their strategy, or hire an agency like Admiral or whatever, you know. So then you can make me some business, Antonio, for the shout out. So basically, you know, this is like a really good solution you can implement in your company, which is quite fast to do at the beginning. And also maybe you will find some challenges, but I can help you out with that. And you know, it's really good. No one is doing it. I don't know why, but I'm encouraging people to try it because it's going to be life-changing for you. So then you can integrate all these postbacks back to, for example, Mixpanel, Amplitude, Fire, Analytics, whatever. You can do whatever you want. And one thing that Sonia was mentioning before was that, you know, nowadays performance marketing can't be isolated from the rest of the company. You need to connect the dots between product, data, and any other field. So the fact that you will have all your postbacks in your own server, okay, it gives you the possibility to integrate that with product analytics tool. So then you can see, hey, how are the first step opens from Mixpanel correlating with SKAdNetwork installs, for example. You can see the retention coming out from this cohort. So you can do a lot of stuff if you have the data, okay? This is my recommendation for you today. I hope you enjoy it. And of course, as I told you, if you have any questions to how you can implement this on your site and save some bucks, feel free to reach out.
Cool. Thank you, Lucas. Thank you, Antonio, as well. That was a really great presentation. So can we proceed to a Q&A now? What do you think, guys?
Let's see.
We have cool. We have 3 questions. Antonio, you start. Question to you. Subscription iOS app targeting US. Meta is main channel. We just got access to aggregated event measurement. Seems like a black box. What's your suggestion on SKAN versus aggregated event measurement?
So yes, my suggestion is always to try the possibilities and approaches that we can have. Test, give it a go. But once you start measuring what's better, AAM or SKAd for you, don't trust only their model conversions. It could be the case, but I've seen it with some of my colleagues that they were running some conversion like purchase optimization campaigns on AAM and scan simultaneously. At what they saw with the same creatives was set up, everything is like with the current budget that they have. Actually, when they check on the SKAd data of those campaigns, it was favoring AAM. I have run some tests. I have not seen the same. I've seen like a lot of over-reporting of AEM in most of the cases, and as well as it happens the same with Snapchat, enhanced conversions, with the Google model. We keep seeing a lot of over-reporting favoring the networks, which it makes sense. No, it's not very ethical, in my opinion, but give it a go, test it, and then try to analyze the data with the SKAd postbacks.
Thank you
Cool.
for the answer. Lucas, you want to address the next
Yeah.
question?
Of course, I'm going to go first with the anonymous attendee. Lucas, are MMPs dying within the next 2 to 3 years? I don't think so. They have some of the best talent out there. They are really smart guys. They have the money. They control really sensitive access to different APIs. There is some business going on in the back that we don't know. Maybe that's going to be disclosed in the future. I don't know. But my take for you is you don't need an MMP. Okay, if you only have two networks, you can run directly through their SDKs and do the things that I just mentioned. Okay, so you can achieve everything by yourself. So you don't need an MMP here. I mean, the tricky part here is that for example, Unity or Applovin are big players that I don't know their businesses or what's going on with MMPs. But for example, these players don't want to release an SDK. So if you want to run these ad networks, you still need an MMP to run them. But for most of you that just run, for example, Meta, Google, Apple Search Ads, maybe TikTok, you don't need an SDK. You can just connect their SDKs and you're ready to go. So and also you can see that different MMPs are building new solutions like I don't know, graded optimization or other stuff. That's not the core of their business because they are seeing that hey, revenue is going down. We need to get more clients. How we can diversify the scope of the product that we're trying to build for the community. So my take is that they're not going anywhere, but they are seeing that there's a shift in the industry nowadays and people are getting smarter. So the second one was hola Lucas. If not using an MMP, how can we measure the results of the campaigns for iOS or different channels? So Apple is doing that for you, okay? Not the MMP. You need to get that, okay? So once you understand that Apple is selling the MMP, what's going on, okay? You can do the same, but without the MMP. So you can fetch the data directly from the scan API, or the Apple is going to send the data to your server, and then you can make all the magic there in your back, okay? You need to get that, at the MMP, the only thing that it's doing, it's receiving a JSON, okay, a file, and it's putting it nice into a dashboard. That's the only thing that they are doing nowadays for iOS, and you are paying for that at the end of the day. So once you understand that, maybe it's worth to have everything in one place. Maybe it's not worth for you, but that's what the MMP is doing today. So try to be smarter than them.
Next one, Antonio. This one I think is for you. So our SSOT doesn't include Meta on the other channels. Meanwhile, Scan attributes organic performance to Meta. Is this a problem in our setup or just the nature of MMP reporting?
I think there's a problem in your setup. It's like the organic is being attributed to Meta for some reason. So I will check with your MMP and to check if your set up or you have set up correctly your events on Meta as well.
Well, thank you. Guys, it was a pleasure. I personally also learned quite a lot after this webinar. So yeah, pretty sure it was very insightful for everyone. Any last advice that you would give to the audience?
Save your pocket money. Don't waste it.
Antonio, you agree?
No, that keep being informed about the last trends in marketing and be informed about the last changes, and that it will help you save some money as well. Like keep joining webinars, and so you will learn things as you have a free scan option instead of your MMP. Thanks to Lucas.
Giving back to the community, you know.
Yeah. Will you share then the link to the solution so that all the attendees can check it out?
To be honest, I need, here's the link, I guess. But type form, because I have like a type form URL for people to subscribe. I saturated the paid option, so I need to pay more because I have like a lot of emails right now. So just in case you subscribe and it's, you know, it's not working, it's because of that. I didn't pay. So yeah.
Cool. We will
Awesome,
all check
Sonia.
it out. Yeah.
Cool.
Nice. Then thank you guys a lot. I think it was really good. Yeah.
So
Take care.